The Coda Bubonico is the latest Coda weapon available from Eleanor in the Holvania Mall. Fans of the Bubonico will happily tell you it was already a capable weapon. It's popular enough to have only a 0.75 times Riven disposition, lower than many Coda weapons despite their higher tier and lower age. So what does the Coda Bubonico bring to your arsenal? I'm TheKengineer, let's solve a practical problem. I debated covering this weapon in a full video after testing it on my live streams. Indeed, many things we try out there just don't make the cut. If you want to see those extras, make sure to tune in with the Twitch link in the video description. The ordinary Bubonico is not a hard weapon to get. It's from a clan dojo, meaning it's one simple research, even for a solo clan. So unlike the Sporothrix, where a Coda variant meant a much easier time getting the weapon, the Coda Bubonico is definitely a bigger grind than printing off a blueprint. So let's talk its features. The Bubonico has a projectile primary fire with a high innate multi-shot, high crit and low status. The Coda Bubonico has a projectile primary fire with a high innate multi-shot, high crit and low status. The Bubonico has a unique trait of a viral typed alternate fire, exploding in a 7 meter low crit high status AoE. The Coda Bubonico has a unique trait of a viral typed alternate burst fire, exploding in a 7 meter low crit high status AoE. You might see a pattern developing already. Both are battery weapons, meaning they recharge ammo rather than reload it. Both normally have a 1.5 second delay before recharging. Both recharge after just 0.1 seconds if you empty the whole battery. Both fire 1 ammo per shot on primary fire and 3 ammo per shot, for a total 9 ammo per burst, on secondary fire. Both recharge 9 ammo per second while recharging. Both get 1.9 meters a punch through on primary fire. Both have matching fall off over distance. Both have the exact same innate damage values on the primary and secondary fire as the other variant. In terms of differences, there are fewer than you might expect. There is of course the progenitor bonus. You can have up to 60% additional damage, largely treated as base damage of your chosen progenitor type. Ranking up the Coda Bubonico to 40 allows you to install an elemental vice to switch that type whenever you want, freely in your arsenal. The Coda Bubonico has a larger battery, from 27 up to 36. This allows for 1/3 more shots and a whole extra burst on the alternate fire. Incidentally, this also increases its full recharge time by 1 second. The Coda Bubonico has a slightly elevated critical chance and a slightly elevated status chance. Regarding critical hits on primary fire, using critical deceleration and primed ravage, this is a 6 to 7% damage increase depending on body shot or headshot. Status on the primary fire now applies 8.6% more often, down to just 7% more on the secondary fire. Lastly, perhaps most interesting of all is the fire rate increase. The arsenal shows a staggering increase, taking the primary fire from 3.83 shots per second to 5.33, a 39% increase, and taking a secondary fire from 5 to 7 for a 40% increase. There's a saying that there are 3 types of lies: lies, damned lies, and statistics. That fire rate increase is the 3rd type of lie. In its alternate fire, the Bubonico and Coda Bubonico are firing burst rounds. This means the fire rate as stated is not accurate, telling you only part of the story. When you take into account the time it takes to deliver these bursts, the true fire rate buff is much lower. Modded with shotgun barrage, a typical 90% fire rate bonus for this weapon, it takes roughly 0.35 seconds to fire a burst from the Coda Bubonico. For normal Bubonico, it takes 0.38 seconds. The Coda variant is faster, but by under 9%, not 40%. You might say, hold up, what about the bigger battery? And that's a good question. The Coda variant can fire off 4 bursts before recharging. If you're in that narrow window where 3 bursts wouldn't wipe out your target, but 4 bursts would, that's a benefit. Any less, and you're back to the 9% comparison. Any more, and we have to consider recharge time. Normal Bubonico from first shot to fully recharged took 4.23 seconds, or 1 burst per 1.41 seconds. Coda Bubonico from first shot to fully recharged took 5.18 seconds, or 1 burst per 1.30 seconds, 8.8% faster. So whether you're firing 2 bursts, 3 bursts, or dozens of bursts, the actual fire rate buff is near always under 9%. The primary fire isn't limited by burst timings though. That one with its 39% fire rate increase in the arsenal should definitely be just 39% faster. Right? For reasons that I cannot explain, D added a spool up to the Coda Bubonico. The fire rate as listed in the arsenal is the maximum fire rate. It starts at a much lower rate. Every time you release the trigger just long enough to skip the next shot, the entire spool instantly resets back to slow. So I measured again. It took 7 shots for the Coda Bubonico to catch up to the normal variant, 10 shots for Coda to overtake the normal in fire rate. If you are full firing without a break, the Coda will eventually have emptied its battery just 0.13 seconds later while delivering 33% more shots, a roughly 29% fire rate increase. But if you find yourself wanting to stop firing, to be more ammo efficient as you switch targets, to not be casting rounds into walls and terrain wastefully, the true fire rate bonus is very much lower. In extreme cases, it's sometimes into the negative. So at its best then, the Coda Bubonico on alternate fire is around 75% more DPS and 16% more status output. On primary fire, it's a 70% DPS increase on careful firing, up to 119% increase on full battery dump. The vast majority of this is all in the progenitor bonus. Whether the feeling of the spool up is welcome or off-putting is strictly a personal thing, so I leave that decision to you. Having looked past the arsenal's oversold statistics, it is still a significant DPS increase. So, what modding does such a weapon call for? You can build for either the primary fire or the alt fire, demanding 2 very different approaches. With the primary, I recommend going solidly into a critical approach like this. With a magnetic progenitor, good against Corpus, Tekrot and Overguard, you can skip the magnetic strafe mod for just shock and barrage for fire rate. We end up with a full EPS plus corrosive magnetic radiation setup, delivering 6 status effects in itself. While the base status chance isn't high, a max multi-shot of 23.1 and a max fire rate without companions of 9.07 means we have a lot of hits to make up for the base rate. But we don't need to settle for that. Primary Crux is a very easy to activate arcane for the primary fire. We get to both reduce ammo consumption to 40% and increase the status chance from 18.3% to 52.6%. At full spool, that's now 110 status effects per second. The ammo economy, plus magazine from Atomic Fallout, enables that peak fire rate for as long as possible. You get around 14 seconds of continuous firing on a full battery for the same 4.1 second recharge. The ammo efficiency also benefits the alt fire, allowing you to paint a cluster of enemies with both viral and electro procs for just 3.6 ammo per burst, only 7% of your full battery. This means easy viral priming and now a total of 8 status effects on hand. As the Bubonico is a projectile weapon, Galvanized Savvy is multiplicative with primed point blank and other pure damage sources. A peak of 8 status effects means a damage buff of 640%, atop the benefits of puncture, corrosive, magnetic, and viral. Even if we stick to 6 procs, no viral, similar damage buffs, and no type bonuses, this setup delivers over 2.5 million DPS on body shot and over 15 million DPS on headshot. With 8 procs and full viral and puncture, it climbs to a theoretical peak of 104 million DPS. I'll be real with you, you're not going to hit that kind of DPS. Considering the time taken to apply the alt fire, the shotgun spread missing the head, and just no one being able to keep up with the target switching that'd call for, 104 million isn't real. The upside is you won't care. The targets in front of you have been reduced to loot and affinity. If you'd rather an alt fire approach, that would need to change a lot. Crits aren't a real option unless you use Arcane Avenger, and weak points have gone from the target to a rare bonus. Instead, we're now looking at Primary Merciless for the Arcane, Shogun Elementalist for a status damage as Savvy will no longer apply, and an elemental shift to using Blast or Gas. Blast on an already high explosive attack might seem a bit redundant, but it covers a fair chunk of the AoE of Bubonico and allows small targets to help take down bigger ones. Gas, on the other hand, can let you choke out a choke point for a few seconds. Notably, the 7 meter radius is unmoddable. There is no fulmination for shotguns, so 7 is what you get. With this setup fully stacked on kills, you get 45,500 damage per shot, so around 137,000 per burst, or around 409,000 DPS. This puts out an average of about 2 viral procs per second per target too, allowing it to ramp up on tougher targets. 409,000 is a lot lower than the millions of the primary fire, even when accounting for AoE hits. But then, a lot of missions involve targets that don't come close to that level of tank. Where you should draw the line and switch to the crit build depends on the buffs you and your team are bringing to the missions. Between those two setups, this will give you everything to get the most out of the Coda Bubonico as it exists today. Or, if you'd rather not put in that effort, the normal Bubonico will still be about half as good. Just swap Shotgun Barrage for Magnetic Strafe, and downgrade other mods as needed for your level of progression. If you're familiar with the Bubonico already, this might be an uninspired upgrade, but that shouldn't overshadow its heavy hitting effect and endless supply of ammo. In any case, that's all from me on this weapon, so as always, fire your shells, galvanize your hell, and fight well, Tenno.